On today's episode of The Story Truck, I have had the privilege to interview Mr. Abodh Aras, the CEO of the Welfare of Stray Dogs, a Mumbai-based NGO that helps stray dogs. The first question I'd like to ask is, how did it all start for WSD? What was the major breakthrough?
So, I don't know if you know, but street dogs used to be killed by the municipal corporation. And WSD started with an objective of to stop them from killing the dogs. So we started actually way back in 1985. And what we used to do is that we used to actually go and rescue the dogs that the BMC used to catch to kill. The BMC used to catch dogs and take them to the killing pound. And if nobody claimed them for 3 days, they used to be electrocuted in the most horrible manner.
Oh my
So
God.
we used to go and pay a license fee. You could do that, for pets, and then we used to, rescue them and put them back, and that's how it all started.
But why did the BMC kill dogs?
So it was a British legacy, yeah, and they thought that it was the only way that it could bring down rabies or the street dog population, but actually it did not work because hundreds of years of killing, I mean, you'll be surprised that actually the Parsis rioted to stop the killing of street dogs in 1832. So, there's evidence that dogs used to be killed way back, during the British times. And you're right in asking this question that why kill the dogs? Because it didn't solve the purpose or the objective for what they were being killed. Because dogs still were there, and rabies had not gone down. So it was not only unethical, but it was also illogical, and there was no reasoning behind killing street animals.
So then could you explain WSD's role in all of this?
So basically, then in 1994, we convinced the municipal corporation with facts and figures and scientifically how killing of dogs has had no effect on their population or rabies. And then we offered an alternative, a humane way of controlling the population, which is sterilization, or what is called an, and that's how we pioneered it in Bombay in 1994.
Okay, so when I put up a story, a couple of questions arose about sterilization. So, firstly, why
Yeah.
do NGOs stress on neutering dogs?
So you must realize that that was it was. I mean, there was no alternative where it was either choosing that time between killing of dogs and sterilizing to control the population, and that's how NGOs introduced that humane scientific of controlling the population. And actually, which you've seen, it has helped in the long run because the street dog population has come down and rabies has come down drastically. And you must also remember that, any veterinarian will tell you that sterilization actually is good for both a female dog or a male dog in the long run because they have less health problems. So it's not only about strays, it's also about pets
Pets.
in terms of, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that a female may not get uterus related problems or ovarian related problems
Yes.
if the dog is already sterilized, or the male may not get prostate issues, cancers, and so on
Cancers, right?
if it's
I've heard
sterilized.
a lot
So it's
about
not only, yes, yeah, so it's not only about controlling the population but also the health of the animal.
But does it harm or affect the animal during the process? Sterilization?
No, not at all. It's a major surgery which is done under anesthesia, like
Okay.
any other surgery. And I mean, the dog is goes back to where he or she comes from in within 7 days. Yeah, and you see, I mean, there are thousands and thousands of dogs that we have neutered, and you see they are having a, I mean, living a healthy, happy life on the streets.
Yes. How does WSD carry out this process of
Yeah.
sterilization?
So basically, the dogs are caught um, uh, by our staff and brought in by our ambulance into the center. Sometimes even the municipal corporation also catches the dogs and brings it to NGOs, and then they are operated at the center and under anesthesia, of course, and then they are kept there for post-operative care till their surgical wound heals,
Hmm.
and they are put back in the same place where they got from after an identification mark is put on them, which is a ear notch. So if you've seen dogs with a little cut in the ear, which also is done under anesthesia, so it's not painful, and they're given a rabies shot when they are being discharged. So the dog that is sterilized is will not be able to have puppies, and also he's safe. He or she is safe because he's been vaccinated against rabies.
That's actually very, very good. So, killing two birds in one stone, it's happening. Rabies as
Yeah,
well
so
as
two
the.
objectives of
Yes,
both the population control and also of
right.
reducing or eliminating rabies.
So, since you spoke about rabies, is rabies very fatal when it's passed on to humans?
Yes, yes, of course. So you must realize that there is no cure for rabies.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a highly preventable disease. Yeah. But there is no cure, and that's why we need to be proactive in the sense that it's now WHO also has various reports that have come out of how it's better to also mass vaccinate dogs, and it says that if up to 70% of dogs in an area are vaccinated, it breaks the rabies transmission. And that's why we do a lot of revaccination against rabies throughout the city every Saturday. Today we were vaccinating in Kulaba actually. Yeah, or last 2 weeks it actually was World Rabies Day. Those 2 weeks, we vaccinated around 1,000 dogs
Oh, wow.
in association with the municipal corporation. So it's important to vaccinate dogs. And it's also important to understand why dogs can bite and what to do when dogs bite. And so there needs to be proper protocols followed if you have an animal bite, and which of course will prevent rabies transmission.
So, could you throw light on supposing I've been bitten by a rabid dog? What should I
Yeah.
do immediately?
Yeah, so not necessarily or only a rabid dog, but by any warm-blooded animal. Rabies can be spread by any warm-blooded animal, and it is spread not through the air, but if the saliva needs to enter the bloodstream. So which means that either through a bite or a lick on an open wound. Yeah. So the first thing to
Okay.
do is that to wash the wound with soap and water for 15 minutes. The World Health Organization says that 94.4% particles are viral particles are washed away. Yeah. So that is the first thing to do. Washing is very important. The second thing is to put any antiseptic, and the third is to go and take rabies shots. So and they are available at any hospital, or even at your a general practitioner
Yes.
can give it. So these three things are very important. I repeat: wash the wound with soap and water for 15 minutes. Any antiseptic like Dettol, Savlon can be put, and then to go and take rabies shots.
Okay. So, coming back to you, could you tell us a bit about your journey, your role with WSD before and as compared to right now being the CEO?
So, well, basically, I always loved animals, and as a kid, I used to, thanks to an elderly neighbor who used to have cats and loved street animals, I used to accompany him to the vet, whenever a neighborhood animal was injured. And of course, in my house also, we've always had cats, never dogs. But So I was brought up with animals, and so that love for animals was always there, and that's how I mean, I saw that I've seen actually dogs being picked away when I was small and taken away for to be killed by the municipal corporation, and with my neighbor we used to go and claim them back, and you could pay a license fee and bring them back. They used to put a billa, like a little tag, which means that this dog has a license. So then they would not pick it up again.
So
Yeah.
who issues
So
this license?
sometime in
Sorry.
the municipal corporation, this was that time, not anymore.
Hmm.
Okay, those that's changed now. Now, of course, only pets require licenses, but I'm talking about when dogs used to be killed. Yeah, now it's illegal to kill street dogs or street animals. So, so that's how it started. And then sometime in 1995, I started volunteering with the welfare of stray dogs. I trained under a veterinarian and started what we call now is an on-site first aid program. You know, that was because I was doing my MBA then, and there was a trigger for this. There was a little puppy, that was hurt, and he had a little wound, and the only thing one could think of is just taking it to the animal hospital, and that's what I did, and I forgot all about it. And maybe after like 20 days, they called and they sent actually the puppy home, and I was quite shocked because the puppy had uh, become really emaciated, and it was almost dying, and I didn't know what to do, and I was crying all night, calling a veterinarian and understanding what could be done, and doing what she was telling me to. But the puppy didn't make it. And then I realized that suppose I had a wound, I wouldn't have got admitted to hospital. You know, I would have treated the wound with some Dettol or something, or consulted a doctor and asked what should be done, right? So similarly, that's when I realized that a lot of animals can be treated where they are located. You know, remember that dogs are territorial. So the dog outside your house at the gate, you'll always see him or her there. You know, so I trained under a vet for about 3 months, and then started what we call an on-site first aid program. And then we started training more and more volunteers, and we continue to train volunteers. And right now, actually, it is expanded in various other cities in India. I've done training programs all over India, for other cities, because you could not, maybe you don't have an hospital in that city, but at least a majority of the animals can still be
Cure.
treated, first aid, basic first aid can be imparted. And that's how it all began. And then I started volunteering with the welfare of stray dogs. And sometime in 2000, when I was working with a company, I realized that maybe, my skills that I've acquired at working in the corporate world, and whatever I have learned, so-called learned in an MBA school, might help in, running of the organization. And that's how then I you know, joined as the chief executive officer.
So how did it feel? Because this is an complete turn from what you were doing at an MBA corporate job to over here.
Well, it felt really good because I didn't have Monday morning blues. I mean, one works every day, and all my friends used to quite tell me that you're lucky that you're not caught in the rat race, yeah, and
Right.
you look forward to go to work every day, where many of them maybe didn't, you know. So I think it was something that one was passionate about, and also one could actually see the difference that you meaning. Please remember, it's not only me alone. I mean,
Right.
there are so many people involved here. Remember, the organization is made up of the veterinarians, the managers that work, the animal nurses, the ward boys, the volunteers,
Right.
and it all adds up. So So it's a very a collective effort, and that really you can see that the dogs that you or cats that you're saving uh, because of treatment, and or you can see a difference being made over years with the street dog population. My road about 20 years ago at least had 15 dogs,
Okay.
and now there are about 3 or 4 left. Yeah, so they are all sterilized, and they passed away in a natural way.
Right.
And the idea was to control the street dog population, but in a humane and scientific manner. So that is something that has helped. So the neutering program has helped
Right.
in doing that.
Coming to the adoption point of view, so how many dogs actually get adopted, and if they're not adopted, are they put back on the streets?
So you must realize that the question should be, what are the kind of dogs that need adoption? Yeah.
Okay.
So the average dog on the street does not need adoption, which means, because I'm giving an example that there was a dog called Rani that lived outside Gaylord for 18 years. She passed away last year, and and that was her home, and she would have been very uncomfortable actually being taken off her home and put into somebody's home. You know,
So they are
so
comfortable in
that
that particular surrounding.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. They are familiar with people. There are a lot of caretakers and animal feeders in the area who are feeding them. Um, the Gaylord people used to look after her. So the kind of dogs that need adoption are dogs that either might not be safe on the streets, which means that, say, there is some cruelty issue, okay, or dogs that are abandoned. I mean, lots of people taken dogs don't understand the responsibility, and cruelly, and it's also illegal. They abandon them. So those dogs there that require a home. And at WSD, we also have a third kind of dogs that need a home, which are dogs from the airport, what we call airport dogs. Now, what are these dogs? These are dogs that were hanging around on the runway of the Mumbai airport. And many, many years ago, the airport authorities went to court, to the High Court, because remember, it was illegal, and it is illegal to kill street dogs and street animals. So they went to court and wanted an exception to kill the dogs that were on the runway. So we intervened and went to court and said that don't kill them. We'll take them and get them adopted. These are the only dogs that don't go back. Otherwise, it's a very clear uh, legal rule that any dog that is caught from an area cannot be displaced. It needs to go back into the same place where it was got from. So, so those dogs have been coming in, and those are the dogs that we put up for adoption because they can't go back.
Okay.
So again, dogs that come in for sterilization go back to where they have come from. You
Right.
know, and of course, if the dogs, I mean, your question also was what happens if they are not adopted, then they remain with us. But over a point of time, we've had about 400-500 dogs coming in, and most of them have got adopted, and maybe about 20-25 are there right now, for adoption. But that keeps, I mean, more dogs do keep coming in and more get adopted, so that goes on.
So you spoke about the responsibilities that a family or a person has to take while adopting a dog. And sometimes if they're
Yeah.
not able to hold up, they may just abandon the dog. So could you explain that to a viewer who's planning on adopting a dog?
Yeah. So that's why you need to be very, very sure that you can take in a pet, and it may be a cat or a dog, as a pet. And because you need to think of it of for keeping it for life, which means the next 15 years, that might be the average age of a dog or a cat. So where will you be in the next 15 years? So if you're a student and you're going to go abroad for studies, it won't be fair on the dog and it won't be fair on your parents also, because you'll go away and the responsibility then shifts. So you need to you also need to have time to exercise the dog, naturally feed it. Remember, a dog or a cat is going to fall sick sometime in its life, and you'll need to take it to the veterinarian. Anyway, you'll have to take it to the veterinarian for its regular, vaccinations, yearly vaccinations, and so on. So that's why you need to be sure that you are going to take the responsibility of a pet for the rest of its life, and that is what we're looking for, when people come in. Yeah, then of course it's a question of fitting the dog to the family, but this the most important thing is the intent, and also the willingness to do that. So I think people who want to adopt, of course, I mean, and of course, please don't go and buy dogs, okay? Because it's better to adopt. So if you want to get in a dog or a cat, don't don't buy, adopt. And because our indies are really, really, I mean, they're the best,
Yes.
pet to have. They are as loyal, as good looking. Veterans will tell you they are better acclimatized to our climate. They are hardier, less health problems and so on. Yeah, but but don't buy, because the whole puppy mill and the whole breeding
Yeah.
industry is not really the best in terms of the welfare of of the dog or the cat that you might want to buy.
So I don't know. I've heard a lot about this misconception that indie dogs are unruly and they're not the ideal pet as compared to Firangi breeds. And
Yeah.
people usually tend to adopt them or even buy them. So could you?
I mean, you just look around in the stories that you'll find, the relationships that are there on the street with the good polish wala, the chai wala, the slum dweller, the street dweller, the building person, the policeman, and the relationship that the street dogs have with these people, that will itself tell you how lovely it would be to adopt a indie. You must also, I mean, I had written a book called My City, My Dogs for Children, which are stories of about 8, now 9 dogs, indies or street dogs, and that those stories are very heartwarming of what these dogs, I mean, have their own idiosyncrasies and relationships with people. Yeah. So I think any dog, remember, when you bring in, requires some kind of, I mean, it's an adjustment when a dog comes into a home, irrespective of it being a Firangi breed or a Indie. So it all depends on how you are going to bring it up, how you're going to train it. When I mean train, doesn't mean how I'm going to shake hands and so on, but I'm talking about basic training of potty training, or ensuring that the dog is, you are ensuring that the dog is listening to what you're going to say. So I think indies make amazing pets, and you'll have lots and lots of people who will vouch for that. I mean, today more and more people are actually adopting indies, and that's really heartwarming.
Good to hear. Yes. Are elder street dogs not easily trainable?
No,
This.
not at all. Because, if you see that at WSD, we don't have puppies. We have generally dogs that are bigger, in the sense it could be a year or two, or it could be even older to that, even senior dogs. And so the main thing is that the dog needs to be, matched to the family, which means that I'm just giving an example that some dogs may not like children. Yeah, or some dogs are very exuberant. Yeah. So suppose there's somebody who has a senior citizen at home, I'd rather give a dog that is calmer than an exuberant dog. I'm not talking about aggression here, remember, huh? It's just a question of the dog is jumpy, very happy,
High,
jumpy dog.
high on
But
energy. Yeah.
yes, So if there's a senior citizen, I rather give a dog who's calmer than a dog that is very exuberant. So, or if somebody already has another dog, then you try and see if this dog gets along with that dog, and so on. So it's more to do with matching the dog to the family, and that's why it should never be that people adopt a dog like it's a one-time decision that you just go and say, I want this dog and take it. We generally prefer that people come multiple times, meet the dog, get to know the dog, and then once we are convinced that this is a good match, then take him or her home.
Oh, when it comes to animal cruelty, does the police actually intervene or take some action, or they just stay quiet?
So it depends, See, unfortunately, um, our laws, I don't know if you have heard that there's something called the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, which was passed in 1960. Yeah. After that, it's not been amended. So the laws are there and they are very clear that what is cruelty and so on. But the fines are so minimal or the jail sentences are so little, yeah, that and some of them could also be bailable, unless it is tied under the IPC Act, the Indian Penal Code. So the problem is that it's not only the in terms of the police, but it's the law, and that is what we've been saying, that the law needs to be strengthened. Actually, there's a Animal Welfare Act, which is supposed to be passed, and I hope this government passes it soon because it's in the draft stage and it was to be introduced in Parliament, and that really would help maybe as a deterrent because the fines have been escalated, also the jail sentences has been escalated, but we've had some experiences where the police have been very helpful, and I remember that there was a cruelty case, how somebody had locked up, this person had locked up the pet and gone away, for a holiday. And suddenly the neighbors called us and said this pet is locked up inside the house and this person is not there. And the police were very helpful, and they helped us, to open the house and we could rescue the dog. So I think, because remember that that way the police actually also do look after a lot of animals on the street. I don't know if you ever passed on Marine Drive. You'll always see at the Suksagar Junction there is the policeman standing, and there's always a dog, standing with them. During the lockdown, when we were going around, distributing food at Nakabandis, there always at the Nakabandi there should be
Right.
one street dog, standing with them. So the police also have been, I mean, they're quite sensitized to the
This
issue. At
issue.
least in Bombay, that is what we have experienced. So I think maybe other places where we need to step in and educate the police about the laws, because maybe some places they don't even know that, or for them it may not be priority because of so much human crimes happening. So but we need to educate them and try and ensure that justice is done to any animal that has undergone cruelty.
Yes, that makes sense. So this common question that I got is on seeing a hungry stray dog or a cat, what's the best food you can give them?
So I think you must remember that dogs are scavengers.
Hmm.
Okay, I mean originally, when they were earlier, I mean luckily our cities have become cleaner and there are no open garbage bins. But whenever earlier there were open garbage bins, dogs and cats used to eat from them. And a lot of people used to say, "Oh, poor things," but they were scavengers. And that's why maybe they are tougher than the breeds. But I think a basic, you know, diet. I mean, remember that if you see a hungry dog, you shouldn't overfeed it. That is one thing, shouldn't be done. And the second thing is that anything that is non-spicy naturally. So dal, rice, mixed with pet food maybe, or such things can biscuits. Biscuits of course are a treat,
Yes, I
but
have a
but
question. Right, because
yeah,
people say
but
that
it's nutritious food.
nutrient.
Food needs to be given. So that is the main thing that is important. And of course, one needs to avoid oily, spicy food that shouldn't actually be given to dogs and cats.
Okay. Also, this concept about kennel dogs that WSD has, could you tell us about that?
Kennel dogs.
Kennel dogs. My friend spoke to me the ones which are sometimes paralyzed or really in a deplorable condition.
Uh, Meaning airport dogs? I mean,
Are
what
those?
kennel dogs?
So she told me that sometimes their one ear is cut off. They don't have
Oh,
one leg.
okay. Yeah, but they are. I mean, like, see, we have a dog called Donald, and maybe I'll send you the photograph. And in fact, we call him our Lata Mangeshkar in the kennel because whenever whenever any volunteer comes, he starts singing because he wants, to be taken for a walk. So he came in with one of his ears eaten up by maggots. So of course we treated him and he healed. So of course he doesn't have one ear, but that doesn't really, limit him from doing what other dogs do. So I think she might have meant the airport dogs that come in,
Okay.
and with or dogs that remain with us because of like see we had a rescue of a dog that was it was a cruelty case, and she was actually acid was thrown on her, yeah, and she came with her whole body scalded, and of course over time it healed, and she's one of the sweetest dogs at the kennels. So maybe and we look for homes for such dogs too, so they either then go to a new home or they will remain with us, till they are adopted, or they remain with us. Yeah.
So you mentioned about WSD volunteers. What does a day go like about at WSD if you're a volunteer?
Uh, so right now you must remember it's very different because of COVID and safety issues. But otherwise, volunteers do, I mean, help out in different activities. So it could be if they are going to the WSD center, then they could come and walk the dogs. All the what you call kennel dogs or the airport dogs are very happy to with a lot of visitors, and they are walked, or they are given a bath. Some of course are not very happy getting a bath, but they naturally need to be bathed once a week or at least once a fortnight.
Right.
So that is something that volunteers can do. They can help out in cleanup also at the kennels of maintaining the garden and general cleaning also. We have other volunteers who do other things like we have volunteers who are behaviorists who help out in our adoption program, which means they come in and so they are already trained, So the dogs that come in undergo a behavioral assessment, So they help out with that, or they help out with basic training, potty training and so on, those they need to be volunteers who have been trained in dog behavior. We have volunteers who help out, like who come onto the streets and learn basic first aid, and they help out with that. Yeah. So of course, for that they need to take their rabies shots, but they can come and help out with that. But many volunteers also help out with the education program, where we go to schools and uh, in public places and talk about dog bite prevention, about rabies prevention, about the stray dog issue,
Right.
being kind to animals, the laws that exist, So all these things, they can help out in spreading awareness and also in fundraising. Remember that WSD being a charity, we survive on donations, because remember that we do not charge anybody any money for anything we do. All our services are free, because finally the man on the street calls, and it's the money shouldn't be a deterrent for him not to call. At least he or she has picked up the phone and called for an
Taking
animal
that
in distress.
initiative, yes.
Yes. So a lot of volunteers help out in fundraising. In fact, during COVID times, a lot of them have been, doing a lot of crowdfunding, on various platforms, so that helps out. Or during normal times, we have, sales, garage sales, or we also have product sales, and that also, volunteers man or woman those stalls that we have, so they help out in various ways. It could be also somebody with legal background can help out with that, or somebody who's good at strategizing, somebody who's good at merchandising, our social media account is run by a volunteer, so there are different things that volunteers can help out with.
And what are the other events at WSD?
So various, I mean, generally we have something like during Christmas time, we do come out with a Christmas event where people can come into the kennel, meet the dogs, and get their favorite gifts for them, or we take part in various like the Kalagoda festival and so on. Sometimes we also, twice we had a fundraiser where we had a concert was held to raise money, or we also have workshops. So we have workshop on training volunteers on basic first aid. This workshop anybody can attend, and we've trained thousands of people on basic first aid, so these are some of the events that we have. We have volunteer orientation workshops also, so these are various things that go on. And of course we have a lot of visitors and school children and college students that come to the kennels, to the WSD center. So that becomes an event in itself, because all the dogs then are brought out, and they are happy meeting so many people. So these are the different events that are held over the year. But right now, unfortunately, because of safety issues, yeah, a lot of things are being done online. So we are having, of course, we also have kids workshops. So right now, those are being done online. So a skill that is related to something to do with dogs, which means that, I mean, just to give an example, how to be a street dog reporter, like a journalist, or how to spin street dog stories, so these are the things that we are actually currently also doing online every Sunday. Yeah. So a lot of it now has, of course, taken the online mode.
So if any person watching this video till here wants to volunteer, what's the process to go about it?
So they just need to either, call us, or, they can DM us on Instagram or email us, and our volunteer manager will get in touch, and they'll have to just fill a volunteer form, because we rather, have volunteers who help out in what they'd like to do, rather than we telling them what to do. Because, like I told you, there are an array of activities, and maybe some people might want to learn first aid, but some people may not be comfortable. They might be wanting to go and walk the dogs at the kennels. So that option is given to the volunteers, and then they can start. Yeah. So, but it's a little process. Earlier, it was a physical, in the sense, an interview in person, but now it's online, and many of the activities now are curtailed. But slowly, I'm sure, with things getting normal, all those other activities will also open up.
Yes. So to conclude this whole interview, I'd like to ask you one last question. What is your biggest learning, or what are your many learnings from a dog or a cat or any?
Well, the biggest, yes, I think the biggest learning is that unlike human beings, and dogs don't discriminate. You know, they don't discriminate, or even cats, or whether you're rich or poor. They don't discriminate the whether you're a male or a female in terms of caste and religion and so on and so forth. You know, for them, I mean, it's just the love that they give and the love that they receive. Yeah. So I think that has been my biggest learning, over so many years, of how dogs are just amazing, and how, I mean, there's so much that we need to learn from them. And I think the second thing also is the absence of self pity. You know, we keep pitying ourselves and saying, "Oh, I don't have this. This has happened to me," and so on and so forth. I've seen dogs that have come in the most horrible. I mean, we had a dog that came with no face, you know, and it was the face was eaten up by maggots. And in that state, also, see, you will pity the dog, but the dog was not I mean, her
Fitting
name was
itself.
Asha or Hope.
Okay.
She was not pitying herself, and when I saw the dog, and she was just jumping, and she looked happy. And of course, I mean, we healed her, and she went to an amazing home, and in fact she went to France,
Oh,
and
wow.
so that is one big learning, the absence of self pity. So I think, I mean, I wish we could
There's a lot,
emulate so
like,
many of these
yeah.
qualities from dogs.
There's a lot we humans need to learn from them, is what I feel.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you so
yes.
much. I had an amazing time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, thanks a lot, and thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.